This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
This week's Tigers Talk podcast is brought to you by The Athletic, premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. Listeners of this very podcast can get 20% off the first year of an annual subscription by visiting theathletic.com/DSP. And welcome to the latest, the freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Chirco, alongside my usual sidekick and broadcast partner and fun, that is the Doc from Doc and Jock, John Charles Macaroon. John, looking fresh, doing well outside, running a 40-yard dash, trying to look good and smooth, and you failed. Doc, how are you doing?
Vito, I always enjoy the chance when we get to record, have some fun, do some entertaining bits on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. I just think that, you know what, this project is fun, and what makes it really fun is the fact that, you know, we can laugh, share jokes, and really not take ourselves seriously. If you can't laugh with your boys, who can you laugh with? And I know some entities say that Saturdays are for the boys, but guess what? In my life, every day is for the boys, and it's an opportunity to have fun and talk some baseball. What do we have this week going on with the Detroit Tigers? I'm hearing a little bit of snippets regarding what's going on the field. They're in the midst right now of a little bit of a losing streak, but it's spring training. We're not taking a lot of stock in what's going on, but what type of news with the Detroit Tigers has hit your radar, sir?
Everybody is having fun, maybe besides for Daniel Norris early on in spring training, and not that he's been lackluster and has been disappointing so far. And it's spring training. You can't take a lot of stock in it, in the productivity of players and what they've done so far, because it's so early. It's not even the regular season yet, but still, there has been talk, an article or two, and murmurs on Twitter that Daniel Norris might be better off for the bullpen. Now, who wrote the article, Doc? I believe it was Lynn Henning of the Detroit News. He wrote this thought-provoking piece about Daniel Norris maybe as a lefty being better suited for the pen moving forward. And I think to conserve his energy and to keep him healthy for the long haul, that might be the best way to utilize him and his talents moving forward. That was Lynn Henning's point, I believe, for the most part, in his article about Norris moving to the pen, possibly.
What do you think?
He's too young, and there's too much potential and upside in his left arm to say that he should be a bullpen arm at this stage. Like Francisco Liriano is a lefty who's 34. I believe. That's why he's in the bullpen now, because he has to be in the bullpen. The bullpen is really utilized for failed starting pitchers, so you don't want to see Daniel Norris become a failed starting pitcher already when he was your big trade piece in that deal in, what was it now, 2015, involving David Price. So because of that, you want to see Daniel Norris still be used as a starting arm. You don't want to see him be used as a bullpen arm yet, because that would mean that, well, Daniel Norris has become a failed starting arm, and, I mean, his high upside that we thought he once had is pretty much diminished completely.
So you would look at it as an abject failure if Daniel Norris starts the year in the bullpen. Because here's the thing, and I can understand maybe the reasoning why the Tigers might want to put the likes of a Daniel Norris in the bullpen. Because of the fact that the mindset you have to have as a starter, you can tell, you got to be able to put things aside. You have to have the mental wherewithal to put things aside if you make a mistake. And sometimes I feel like when we've watched Daniel Norris, when he makes a mistake, or a lot of times last season when the umpire didn't give him the proper call, you know what I mean? When he thought that he got that third strike, or when he thought that he put the pitch in the right spot and it wasn't called, and then the batter went on to get a hit or a key home run. It just seemed to unsettle him, and then he was not able to recover. And so the thinking is a guy that sometimes has mental lapses or that can't consistently go 5, 6, 7 innings and have that mental strength maybe needs to be transitioned to the bullpen where you can just bring him on for 3 innings of fire. I think the Tigers are looking to maybe try and accentuate his strengths, and maybe starting is not one of them.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of guys can be more effective out of the pen. So you can get more high effective usage out of them in the pen. But the thing is, once again, Norris is so darn young still. He came up as a starting pitcher in the farm system. That's why he was a top prospect at one point. And that's why the Tigers still believe he has high upside, not to be used as a bullpen arm solely. You don't want him utilized at this stage in his career as a bullpen arm solely. And if he does end up becoming a bullpen arm solely, that means he has failed once again as a starting pitcher. And the Tigers really failed in that trade, landing him as their big trade piece in that David Price trade when they dealt him to the Toronto Blue Jays in 2015.
Do you remember Nate Robertson?
Yeah.
For the Detroit Tigers? I just feel right now, wouldn't you compare Daniel Norris to Nate Robertson right now? I mean, a dude that has potential, maybe a spot start here and there, can do some things. But at the very least, I think maybe the Tigers think of maybe Daniel Norris is a long relief man. Maybe a guy that
he shouldn't be thought of that.
No?
He should not be thought of as that. And if he is, that means the Tigers are lowering their expectations for Daniel Norris this season and moving forward. Not a good sign if the Tigers are lowering their expectations to that point. Remember, Nate Robertson was a guy that really, that was all he could have been, but that was later on in his career after he flamed out as a starting pitcher. But remember, he flamed out as a starting pitcher after being effective, at least in 2006, Nate Robertson was. And he was a lefty. Lefties are still sexy, even in their 30s, mid-30s, because they can become lefty specialists, used to get an out or two out of the bullpen. But Norris should not be utilized once again as that reliever right now in his career when you expect him to at least be a fifth starter and a guy with the upside of a number 3 starting arm every fifth day. So if he's only a bullpen arm relegated to those duties already in his young career, it means the Tigers have failed with him, and he has failed once again as a starting pitcher. Not a great sign from him early on in spring, with that being said. And this is a thought-provoking piece, and for these kind of articles too, Doc, it is more about speculating what these guys could become and how effective he could be in the pen, and he could be over 3 innings because he can throw harder for those 3 innings and not get, worn out. You would get the best 3 innings possible out of him when he comes out of the pen. But still, I want to see him throw 5 innings and be used, or 6, and be used as a starting pitcher, Doc.
Let me refresh our listeners' memories regarding what happened with Nate Robertson. On August 22nd, 2008, Jim Leyland announced that Nate was being demoted to the bullpen. He just could not command the slider, and he was quoted by the Free Press, a great newspaper that you're part of. He was quoted as saying, that day when he was demoted, it was, quote-unquote, the lowest point, end quote, of his career. And so I do believe that there is also something that happens psychologically to a pitcher when he goes from a starter to the bullpen. And see, that's the thing that a manager's got to do. He's got to be able to tell a pitcher, look, your job doesn't have to be defined. You don't have to look at yourself as a starter. You are a pitcher for the Detroit Tigers, Daniel Norris, and your job is to help us win games. And by starting, maybe just right now you don't have the mindset. Maybe his skill set is not conducive for success as a regular starter. And so being a psychologist, my senses are alerted in that you got to sit him down, like I'm talking to you right now, eye to eye, man to man. You got to say, look, I feel like you're a great part of this team. You're an asset. We want you part of this team, Daniel Norris. But we think that we need to call upon you in that bullpen because you've seen it. You tell him, look, man, there's a lot of games we've had opportunities with leads. We foresee that we're going to be in a lot of games 2-1, 3-2 late. We can bring you on for more appearances. You can come on like a Spitfire and just bring the noise for an inning or 2. That's the best way you can help this ball club win, and we need you. And I think that role will help. And then you got to uplift the player because he may take it as a demotion, but at the same time, there are dudes. Remember Andrew Miller? Right there, Vito, a perfect example of a major leaguer that was thought of by the Tigers to be a starter. Then what did he become? He kind of toiled away a little bit for several seasons, was battling, did not have command of the baseball. All of a sudden, he figured it out. He is now one of the preeminent closers in all of baseball, and he also has not been handcuffed and labeled as a closer. He's also been used by Tito Francona in years past as a long relief man, and he was even brought in the 5th and 6th innings of big games. So I'm thinking that maybe the best spot for Daniel Norris might, in fact, be the bullpen. Don't be so short-sighted. I think it's a good idea.
But Miller's much later in his career. Nate Robertson in 2008 was at least later in his career than Daniel Norris, a highly prized prospect as a starting arm. Not a bullpen arm prospect, as a starting arm prospect. So later in his career, I'd be much more fine with it, more welcome to the idea, more open to it. I think Daniel Norris would be more accepting and open to the idea as well. I think right now he believes that being relegated to bullpen duties potentially would be like you going back to school saying, well, somebody's saying to you, Doc, that you have to go back to school. Again, to be a psychologist, that what you've done so far, having your degree, doesn't count anymore. Doesn't matter. You have to go back to school and do the schooling, get your degree, become a psychologist, and start from the ground, start all over. Think about that, how unfair that would seem to you, though, is what I'm trying to say. Could be a case like that.
Okay, so you're saying that be patient, give him more time. How much more time would you give him?
Well, the thing is, too, also one other note regarding whether or not he would be really effective out of the bullpen. Does not throw nearly as hard as Andrew Miller. So there are more lights-out guys you can feature in the pen, such as an Andrew Miller, that are more of the prototype. I think fit the mold more of a lights-out reliever because they can throw harder. Not that he's going to touch 100 miles per hour, Andrew Miller, right now, but he can throw 95. 96. Daniel Norris is more like 92, 93, 94. So that does kind of tame your expectations when you talk about a guy being really effective as a bullpen arm, because typically, especially the Tigers in the past when Dave Dombrowski was leading the way in the front office, he wanted hard-throwing arms, lefties and righties. Norris wouldn't fit that mold perfectly, but you could extend him and have him throw 3-4 innings, and if you were going to use him in the pen, he better be used in the highest leverage situations. He really would have to be. Because you know what? If you're going to say that you think that he can produce most effectively out of the pen, I don't want him just being used in garbage time then. Not with his youth and the upside on his side that he still possesses. Because of all those factors added up, Doc, then he has to be used in high leverage situations every single time he's used out of the pen. And the thing is, I could see the Tigers relegating him to a bullpen duty that wouldn't include him being utilized in all of those high leverage situations on a consistent basis.
Okay, but do you feel like the way he's been used so far in spring training kind of lends itself to maybe the speculation that he should be used in the bullpen? I mean, he's kind of been throwing an inning or two. I know it's slow in spring training, but it looks like when he's been brought on for spot duty, he maybe can handle the job. I feel like it's a better role for him.
Well, the thing is, too, these guys in spring are not going to be used for more than 2 innings, 3 innings at the start of spring training. So they're not going to be extended past probably even 2 on a consistent basis in their first couple of outings. So Daniel Norris, in his first outing of the spring, pitched against the Yankees. I was watching some of that game. It was simulcast on Fox Sports Detroit. And it was actually Yes's broadcast. Well, he let up a 2-run bomb to Gary Sanchez. But the damage outside of that was minimal. 2 hits, so 1 other hit allowed, and it was a blooper allowed to Giancarlo Stanton. So he struck out Aaron Judge. So Norris in those 2 innings looked maybe not filthy or completely dominant, but looked effective and effective enough to say he can be used in the Tigers' rotation every 5th day and become at least a solid number 5 starter, if not a little bit better as the season progresses. And that still has to be the hope. If you're a Tigers fan, a member of the Tigers front office and organization specifically, you have to hope that he can become a number 3 starter still. He is so young and has so much darn upside still that you still have to believe he can be a number 3. And if you think anything less of him, you're thinking that Norris isn't going to live up to the bill moving forward as a major league arm.
Now, Vito, did you see the epic matchup, Daniel Norris versus Tim Tebow? Guess who got the best of it?
I didn't see it. No, who did?
Daniel Norris struck out
and
Tim
he should
Tebow,
be striking
baby.
out Tim Tebow. I don't love Tim Tebow as a baseball player. He shouldn't be a major leaguer ever. I thought it was blasphemy when the Mets, their general manager, Sandy Alderson, brought up that he might be a major leaguer in the near future with the Mets, or at least be a major leaguer at one point in his career and with the Mets. That's blasphemous. Come on. Stephen A. Smith, I think, would say so, wouldn't he, about Tim Tebow becoming a major league baseball player now? With what? With what talent? What kind of upside does he have? Nothing, in my opinion.
Now, Vito, let's look in reverse. There's a player in the bullpen that's making noise. Alex Wilson is vying for a starting job.
Yes, he is. Yep.
And for me, that's the exact opposite. I don't see him as a starter because of the fact that I feel like his stuff is conducive for the bullpen. I think that he's got good stuff. He can command it. It went astray late in 2017, but I do believe that his role fits perfectly in the bullpen. I don't think that Alex Wilson will have a strong chance to be successful as a major league starting pitcher. I don't see it. I don't see the stuff consistently enough to get guys out. I feel like at times that his stuff is hittable. And as a major league starter, you got to be able to get guys out consistently. I feel like as a long reliever, I feel like if you go 3-4 innings with Alex Wilson, you start to diminish what he can bring you on a baseball team. I don't like that idea at all.
I think it's been proven, too, that Alex Wilson, even when used in the minors as a starting arm, in the major leagues as a starting arm, because he has been used as a spot starter in the past in his major league career, but has he been effective? Not really. Can't go more than 5 innings. A lot of these guys, I guess, with the Tigers right now, with the current state of their ball club, you could say the same thing about. So Alex Wilson might be comparable. But where's he best effective? I would say in the bullpen in the late innings, because you need some kind of arms in the late innings that can be effective. And who do you have to rely upon in the late innings right now that can pitch and can get outs, can consistently get outs in those high leverage situations? And the Tigers, the back end of the Tigers' pen. Not many other options. So Alex Wilson has to be used in those late innings, in that bullpen role. And if he were to be used in the Tigers starting rotation, that would mean, well, that somebody like Daniel Norris back to him has failed. And that'd be a horrible thing for the Tigers. And once again, he should be a starting pitcher. Alex Wilson should be a bullpen arm.
So negative on Alex Wilson being a starter.
Negative on both. Because I said Daniel Norris as a lefty out of the pen should not be used in the bullpen right now. Maybe later in his career. I would leave it open for later in his career, when he's nearing the washed-up stage of his career. He can't be washed up yet. And remember, with failed starting arms, once again, they become bullpen arms typically. How about Mariano Rivera, the Sandman with the Yankees, the greatest closer, right, of all time? Guess what? He was a failed starting pitcher. Did you know that, Doc? And that's why he was using the pen, became a closer, lights-out closer, an all-time closing great. Think about that. And he was a failed starting pitcher. So there are guys that just don't make the cut as starting arms, and they have to resort to being used in the pen. And then they develop effectiveness out of the pen, being used more often than they would as a starting arm every fifth day. Norris right now at this stage in his career, still relatively young and still possessing a relatively high degree of upside, needs to be used as a starting arm. And Wilson, with the state of the Tigers bullpen right now, needs to be used as a bullpen arm. No doubt in my mind.
Okay, let's take our first time out. We'll come back. I'm a little bit concerned, Vito. One of the major players on the team continuing to see reports about elbow problems, some issues going on with who's considered one of the star players on the team. We'll talk about it next on this edition of Tigers Talk.
And Doc, one of our fine sponsors at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network has been for a while now, the Detroit Sports Commission. And since 2001, the Detroit Sports Commission has been bringing tons of huge sporting events to the Metro Detroit area. And I mean marquee events at the amateur level, national, international level. And these athletes from all over the nation, all over the world to compete in the Metro Detroit area. And that's why the Detroit Sports Commission slogan is, where champions are made and championships are played. So not only where champions are made, but where championships are played. And you can find out more info about the Detroit Sports Commission on Twitter and on Instagram at DET Sports and at their fine website of DetroitSports.org. Back here on Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company, I am Vito Jerome. That is the Doc from Doc and Jock. Sitting across from me at the studio table in Sterling Heights, Michigan, as usual. And before the break, you had said wanting to discuss a starting arm, I believe. And this is right-hander Michael Fulmer, the 2016 American League American League Rookie of the Year. And the concern with Fulmer is that this right elbow will be lingering. And that is an ultimate oh no, isn't it, Doc?
Yeah, that's pretty severe. Whenever I see Fulmer elbow, I get a little bit nervous, Vito, because of the fact that it's not that, I don't trust what the Tigers are doing, but across Major League Baseball, it started to be revealed last season when people would say that Michael Fulmer's delivery is violent, that the way he delivers the baseball is a little bit conducive to injury. Many people across Major League Baseball have started to talk about it, that Michael Fulmer might be a ticking time bomb. And that just upsets me. That worries me because of the fact that this was a caliber player that could have netted you 5 potential prospects, maybe in a trade, a blockbuster deal.
Well, we think.
Maybe.
And let's just say yes. It is a big-time maybe at this point in Major League Baseball.
Has come out on the radio and said many teams continue to call about Michael Fulmer. He's the guy that's drawing attention. And so there should be a bidding war for Michael Fulmer's services. But you can't drive up the price, Vito, if the dude's not on the field. Mm-hmm. And it makes me a little bit nervous to hear these reports. How are you taking it? And are you reading it as something that's normal in spring training because of the fact that his arm is working, he's starting the process of getting in shape to play our long season, that this is no big deal? Or do you say to yourself, at any time when we watch this cat and he's out there on the mound, should we be freaking out?
Well, now we have to worry about this Tiger cat, right? And young cat, Michael Fulmer, being hurt and having lingering issues the rest of his career. You really have to worry about that. And the scary thing is that he's young still, too. And he should have a ton of upside remaining in his right arm. Does he still, through these lingering elbow injuries, symptoms that have nagged him now in recent memory, had to have the the operation late last season. And now he's recovered, but it doesn't look like fully. And these concerns, once again, could be lingering, could cause him to miss time again. So I think you have to place a good amount of stock in this and worry about him being hurt this season, at least at some point. And throughout his career, too, this coming up, this flaring up once again for Michael Fulmer.
Man, Vito, an asset. It's always something, right? You can never just be calm, and you can never just enjoy a major league player's talent. You got to be a little bit worried because of the fact that this dude should have been traded. I really do believe it's going to bite the Tigers in the ass that they did not go out and trade Michael Fulmer. It kind of has that feel, doesn't it? With the luck of the Detroit sports teams, it just feels like we got this gem. We got this young cat. And I know we're going back, I guess on this episode is the nostalgic episode. Could Michael Fulmer go the way of Mark the Bird Fidrich, where he came on with a hot start, was all the craze nationally, and dude just flamed out with injury. It just was a sad sight to see, and old-time baseball fans will remember Mark the Bird Fidrich and the way that he came up. He was a dude that was revered. He came up with that one season, and he was out of this world effective. And then, unfortunately, his career went downhill. He just was not the same guy after a plethora of injuries. Do you see potentially this going down for Michael Fulmer? Or are you going to be hopeful and think that this dude is going to be out here year in, year out like a Justin Verlander? You got to remember Justin Verlander. He was Mr. Reliable. I mean, prior to that rib injury, he gave us 6 to 7 seasons of super high productivity. He was amazing. You could count on him to do some things. Now, that rib injury took maybe a season, maybe into 2 to kind of recover. But once he recovered in 16, 17, oh my God, Vito, JV came back. He was must-see JV, and you saw it in the postseason for multiple teams. You saw that Justin Verlander was able to get it back, especially in the postseason when he needed to dial it up. He helped. He was a contributing member of the Astros when they won the World Series, and so you need reliable arms. If Michael Fulmer is not available, it's going to be a tough time for the Detroit Tigers.
Prior to 2015, JV was consistently healthy. And when you're healthy, you become more effective, typically. I mean, think about it. It adds up, right? There is a correlation there. But the injury bug has bitten, a kitty cat or two in the ass in the past, hasn't it? Including Mark the Bird Fidrich, who had the great, 1976 campaign, flamed out because of injuries. The injury bug can derail your career, and that is a scary, scary thing. Big-time concern with Michael Fulmer as a youngster, still a very effective, a high-velocity throwing arm, and highly effective right-handed arm. It is that the injury bug might derail what Fulmer could reach, the ceiling that maybe is there for him if there isn't that injury that flares up and has to go back to the right elbow. And I think you have to fear, not the worst. I don't want to be a total pessimist here, but I don't think you can be totally optimistic about Fulmer's injury, about his injury past, and think that it's all going to just go away miraculously. It doesn't just go away magically. We know that much too, Doc, with these guys that have had injury issues in the past, such as Michael Fulmer, at this young stage in his career, early stage in his career, too.
Okay, Vito, I'm putting this on you. We got to do whatever it takes to keep Michael Fulmer on the baseball diamond because he's an asset. If he comes out to like a 6-1 start and he does some things and he's a serious contender for the Cy Young and he get outs and he's the strikeout machine, he's box office. He's somebody I would plan a day around to go down to the ballpark, find some $5 parking, have maybe a 4-block walk, and get to the ballpark at Comerica, or maybe call in a few favors and get the parking for free, like I know.
We all wish.
Because if you notice who owns these parking lots, some people of my persuasion.
There you go.
It's awesome. It's good to know people, Vito.
So I like how you, right away, you bring up the $5 ticket is all that you're willing to pay pretty much.
$5 parking and $5 ticket.
There we go. Wow. A cheap day or night at the ballpark.
Yeah, man. But how many games right now are you thinking about going to the ballpark right now? I know you told me you bought the package.
Yes.
In terms of you said maybe 5 or 6 games with all the giveaways.
4-game ticket package. Yep.
This season, how many games do you think you're going to attend?
Probably 5, 6 at the most, I would say. I mean, I'm cheap. I got to be cheap. You have the money. You have the deep pocketbooks. I'm just cheap because I don't have money. So, for me, I have limited funds. But anyways.
Okay, money aside, I think you can get a lot of $5 to $10 tickets.
Can you now? Even now?
Yeah,
I mean, on StubHub, I guess if you go to that secondary market, StubHub, they have cheaper tickets, and people are going to be selling their tickets left and right, trying to at least sell them because it's going to be tough to sell these tickets too, and the Tigers have already experienced that, even with opening day. I still believe there are remaining tickets for opening day at this point for the Tigers, Doc, with opening day for the Tigers rapidly approaching at this point. It being before April, so darn early, and tickets still remain for that contest, Doc. Isn't that embarrassing for the Tigers? But it tells you, it screams at you where the Tigers stand as a major league franchise right now, too.
And don't you think, though, maybe they do need a little bit of a spark? Because I know they're trying to create these regional rivalries, but do you care that it's Pittsburgh coming in?
I did because of Leland, the Jim Leland connection. He managed the Pittsburgh Pirates. I knew that myself. I looked it up, dug into some history and found that out. So it intrigued me because of that, but now it's gone on for so long, is it still intriguing? And when the Pirates aren't going to be as good, they weren't as good last year, they're not going to be as good this year. They got rid of Andrew McCutchen. And their team just as a whole doesn't look as sexy, as appetizing to us as Tigers fans or to Pirates fans that have to watch that product every single game. And it could be very unintriguing with that being the opening day matchup and it being an interleague series for opening day, an opening day series. I mean, the thing is, baseball really can't prevent that from happening. And that's because of how everything is aligned now. It's interleague all season long. But I think it still does stink having to play a National League ball club when you're an AL ball club to start the season. But it's not going away anytime soon, in my opinion, either.
Vito, do you think maybe an idea here just off the cuff that maybe a team from the AL East should come in to Detroit, maybe a team like a Boston or a team like the Yankees, and just kind of rotate it? Because I feel like when the Tigers start off versus teams like that with some tradition, I feel like I remember one of the opening days I went was against the New York Yankees, and man, there were a lot of New York fans here. They were, hanging out at the bars, they were drinking. You need a team with a strong fan base, and I know you're starting with interleague play, and I know that you're not playing the same teams all the time, but wouldn't it be great? Detroit Tigers, Chicago Cubs, Comerica Park, opening day. That would be awesome. You see Detroit Tigers, Pittsburgh Pirates.
It doesn't do much for you. It doesn't move the needle, really.
No,
I don't think it moves the needle for a lot of people anymore. Now, I think it might have been intriguing once again when Jim Leland was the skipper of the Tigers. But now that he's long gone, well, he's still, special assistant, but he's no longer the Tiger skipper. So I don't think it's nearly as intriguing. And then you're playing the Pirates, it seems like every single season in interleague play. Let's find a new interleague rival, per se. The Cubs would be intriguing. They're still a relevant ball club, much more relevant right now, at least, than the Buccos, too. And the Tigers have played, by the way, Beantown in the past for opening weekend. They have done that in the past. And the thing is, you're never going to get the same team in a high-caliber club to start the season. You can't really have that or make that happen. So just throw that idea to the wayside. Okay, Doc? I know you want just a marquee matchup every single week of the season or weekend. Hey, it's not going to happen. Major League Baseball just can't allow that to happen because, well, you have 30 Major League ball clubs, so not everybody can play a marquee team because how many marquee teams are there in Major League Baseball per season? Now, a good amount compared to the NBA and some other leagues that don't have as much parity, but still, you're never going to be able to play the Red Sox or Yankees or Cubs to start the season every single season. Remember that, too. But I kind of agree with you with your point here that I believe you're trying to make, that you would like to see the Tigers play somebody else other than the Pirates to start the season.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's just not conducive to draw. I just don't, it's not. You have to have a good dance partner. You have to have somebody come to town that you want to see. And I think Boston, the Cubs, maybe Baltimore, you can rotate. I think teams in the AL East, maybe even I'll accept even a team like Tampa Bay, the Rays coming in, Or
really?
Yeah, why not?
Why the Rays?
They always
the
seem
sunshine. They're going to bring the sunshine with them or something. Is that what you're believing? Because they're not a great product right now either as a major league team.
Or maybe a team like Houston. Maybe
Oh, now we're going for the Rays to Houston. The Rays who might finish in last, and the Houston Astros who just won the World Series might win it again.
I don't know why I just fond of the Rays. I just said that.
The Tampa sunshine, because you're jealous of Tampa Bay residents, right? That have the sunshine.
The Tigers actually should start there. The Tigers should start the season in Tampa.
Tigers probably would like that. The players on the Tigers would, instead of starting here when it might snow. You never know. Climate change and. It's been so topsy-turvy all year long, hasn't it? Yeah. All winter long.
See, I'm thinking I'm probably going to attend maybe around probably the same 10 games, but I'm going to try to get it, obviously.
The cheapest of cheap tickets.
No, you know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to get comps.
There we go, sir. Still being cheap. Still a cop-out. That's baby. I was looking for a cop-out. That's all right.
Why not?
We all do once in a while.
Why not go for free, Vito, right?
If you can. You're right. Okay, now, we would like to, by the way, as media members one day maybe at a Tigers game. Will that ever happen? One day. At least we've had a Super Bowl champion, right, on our podcast now, Brandon Graham. But anyways, moving on.
Yes, awesome. Always check out Vito's work at DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Now, before we get out of here, I got a special round of Big Vito's over-under. I got 3 questions I need to know your thoughts on before we get out of here.
Yep.
All right, Big Vito's over-under. Over-under, will the Tigers draw 1.8 million total fans this season?
No, because I will say 1.5 or under.
1.5 or under, so you're going to see a lot of days where there's not a lot of fans in the seats, huh?
Well, and during those day games, afternoon games in the middle of the summer, now, a nice day, you might go to the ballpark, and for cheap, we probably can go then when nobody's going to be around at the ballpark. But
what color should the seat covers be for Comerica Park?
Because they're going to need some seat covers, too, like LCA, Little Caesars Arena. You're right. Maybe some Art Van Black seat covers? I don't know. Comerica Bank. Comerica Park, blue? How about some blue seat covers? Because of Comerica. Their colors, right? Company's colors are blue. There we go. Blue seat covers at Comerica all season long to cover up the seats that aren't filled with asses. And it's funny you brought up that you need a good partner, dance partner, for, to make a matchup sexy, right? I thought that was really funny. You need a good dance partner that can shake his or her ass, right? To make the matchup highly intriguing.
Big Vito's over under. 16 wins for the best starting pitcher on the rotation this year.
No, 12. Michael Fulmer, 12. 12 and 10, I could see 12 and 11. Remember, he might be hurt. How about the injury concerns now? He might be hurt and miss time. 12 wins, and then they can't win as a ball club. They're not going to support him with offense, even though I think they'll hit this year and hit a lot more than they will pitch effectively.
307, Vito. 307 batting average. Big Vito's over under. Will Nick Castellanos bat over 307?
Hell no. Hell no.
No.
285.
He's mashing.
285. 275 to 285. He mashed at the beginning of last year, too, then tailed off significantly, and then heated up when the Tigers are far out of the race. It seems like he's that type of ball player right now that hits when there's nothing on the line to play for. That's the kind of ball player right now that Nick Castellanos is. And if he wants to be a true leader and the best hitter in the Tigers lineup day in, day out, guess what? He has to hit all season long. He has to hit in the big games, and the games still count at the beginning of the season. Midway through the season, maybe only in the beginning of the season for the Tigers in 2018 because they're going to be so darn bad, not to be a pessimist once again like I have all season long and all year long so far on this Tigers Talk podcast. But Casty, I want to see you mash, baby, all year long. Give me some power. Show off that sexy long ball hitting ability midway through the season as well. And as the season comes to an end. Now, once again, it's something because he's shown the ability when the season has been nearing the end. But it's been, once again, sad but true when the Tigers have been out of the playoff race, such as last season. Doc.
All right, Vito, good stuff. Impressive, though. We do got to give credit. I know we do a little bit of critical analysis here. We do got to give a little bit of credit so far from what we're seeing from Nick Castellanos.
Which is good. Great.
Yes.
I mean, more, mad props to him. But the thing is, it's spring training. Who are you playing? I mean, think about it. Guys from, Florida Southern. I mean, irrelevant teams. Now, obviously, he's hit against Major League Baseball talent, too, since that game. But it's still, he's what? He's playing against guys that are trying to make the big league club have no chance, like you and I, who are pitching out there, throwing meatballs up to them. And it's like BP at times for Nick Castellanos. So remember that as well when you're talking about how great Nick C has been hitting so far.
You know what I enjoy about recording with you, Vito, is the natural, free-flowing nature of the stuff we come up with. What color should the Comerica Park
good.
seat covers be this season?
What are they saying? What are they saying on Twitter so far? I know you just posted on Twitter.
Posted, but I think that when that kind of crap comes to your brain, it's fun and we're having a good time. The ideas are just flowing. But I do think, potentially speaking, why not? I think that maybe we should formally design a seat cover for the Tigers and ask them to put it on there for free.
With the DSP Network logo on them. No, but I know you're actually being more serious.
I might do it.
Kind of a joke.
In between podcasts
how far can we go with this,
Maybe
right?
I'm going to ask for the DSP to be put on the seat covers. Why not?
Hey,
Dear Tigers.
Extra pub.
All right,
a shameless plug.
Let's get
Try it out. We could use the pub as well. So, hey. Now that we're not done here. Once again, we have Brandon Graham on, so that's pretty significant. But you know what? We got to keep growing the brand. That would be a way of growing the brand, and maybe we'll actually have our asses in the seats then, and maybe we'll get media credentials one day at Comerica Park, too, to cover our beloved Detroit Tigers stock.
All right, let's get out of here, Vito. Always enjoy the conversation. Let's keep it rolling. Detroit Tigers podcast every single Wednesday. Now, in the coming weeks, the Doc's going to take some time off with his birthday and things like that, but Vito's always going to drop the noise. I may not be here periodically just because of the fact that, Vito can handle the ship. I might just miss 1 or 2 episodes, but, when I hand the reins to you, you got the microphone, you know what to do. I know you can drop, 50 minutes strong anytime you want. You can get great guests and things like that. So from time to time, maybe just 1 or 2, because, I enjoy podcasting with you, but the voice needs a break, man.
You take off as much time as you need, and you have your birthday coming up, right?
I do, 39.
So you got to go out and celebrate, too.
The next time I see you to record, I will be a year older. Yeah.
Look at that.
Check out our great work at Detroit Podcast. Visit us, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Let's get out of here.
Adios.